Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى بُلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُبًا رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. Amma ba'd. Today I want to spend some time talking about a story in Surah Al-Kahf. We all know Surah Al-Kahf is something that the Prophet ﷺ highly recommended us to read every Friday, every Jummah. And there are so many lessons in it. And the lessons are, there's a prophetic wisdom in us reading it every Friday, is to reflect on the stories and to relate it to our daily lives and see how we can get better. One of the other benefits of reading Surah Al-Kahf on Friday is, of course, as you all know, it protects us from the fitna of Dajjal, which the Prophet ﷺ said is the biggest fitna that humankind has ever faced. So Surah Al-Kahf, as you all know, has four main stories. I'm going to talk about one very unique story. It's a beautiful story. It talks about Musa alayhi salam, and it occurs between verses 60 and 81 of the Surah Al-Kahf. And inshallah, this khutbah is, I'm going to talk about that particular story, and we won't have time in this 20 minutes to go through every verse, but I'm going to try to, extract out the lessons from it and relate it to our daily lives. And so the lessons are most applicable for me, beginning with me and then the rest of us. So inshallah, that's my intention today. So this story, as I said, I just recited from the beginning of verse number 60. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى أَبْلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُبًا. Musa alayhi salam, this story happens, the chronology of exactly when it happened is not known, but it happens way after the victory over Firaun, way after the Red Sea has been crossed. And Musa alayhi salam is in the desert. Those 40 years that he spent with his followers in the desert, it happens then. The Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he says to his companion, now this companion's name is not mentioned in the Quran, so there's a beauty behind it. When the Quran talks about something, it talks about the lessons, and it wants us to extract the lessons from it. So some of the details that are not mentioned, they're not that important for us, and as we go through, I'll highlight that point again. So this unique story happens, as I said, in the 40 years of when Musa alayhi salam was in the desert, and he had taken a companion with him, and he says to him, I will not cease traveling until I reach the junction of the two seas, or I'll continue for a very long period. So the background for this, and as we know in our traditions, the companion who was with him was a young boy by the name of Yusha. Later on, a few years later, we don't know how many years later, he's the one, after the passing away of Musa, he's the one who actually gave Jews victory over Jerusalem. So they entered Jerusalem again. But the name of the boy is not mentioned. And what he says is, this shows you dedication of Musa alayhi salam in acquiring knowledge. And it also tells you that, as a student, he took a student with him, a young boy named Yusha. Of course, as I said, it's not mentioned in the Quran, we know from our tradition. And he says to him that I will not give up traveling until I have reached what I'm here to acquire. I'm here to acquire knowledge. And the background for it is also, we know in our tradition that Musa alayhi salam was giving a khutbah or a speech to his followers, and somebody asked him, who is the most knowledgeable, O Musa? And he said, I am. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam, that you are not the most knowledgeable. Go and find this man, and he described where exactly he will find him. Go and find this man who will have something that you don't know. And that was the background for it. So Musa alayhi salam mentions two things. One is, he talks about his own humility. Like Musa alayhi salam has been given the biggest revelation in terms of volume, in terms of size, that is Torah. Right? Torah is many more times more voluminous in terms of volume than the Quran. And also Musa alayhi salam has seen, he has traveled a lot. He has done, the background of it is, of course, you have seen him, debate with Firaun, and also talk about, Quran talks about how he got victory over over Firaun and so on. So the important thing to understand here is Musa alayhi salam has a lot of knowledge, and still he is told that go and find knowledge from this man. And look at the humility of Musa alayhi salam. He actually starts going out and he takes a student with him and he tells him, I'm a student more than you, right? So he talks about his humility. The second thing that is important is Musa alayhi salam also says, I will not give up traveling until I have reached my goal, which is acquired this knowledge which Allah has inspired me to acquire. And that tells you that the persistence and the perseverance that is needed in acquiring knowledge. So those are two things I want to start with. Now, who is this man, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired him to go and find knowledge, seek knowledge from this man. Who is this man? Again, Quran talks about it. فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِّنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. And they found a servant from among the servants. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him as a servant from among our servants. So two very important things are very clear here. One is the name of this person is not mentioned. You would expect that if Musa alayhi salam, given the status that he has, is acquiring knowledge from somebody else, his name would be mentioned. We would know about what wahi, what revelation he had and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not talk about that. He talks about two things. He said, he was a servant of ours. He was a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we had given him mercy and we had given him knowledge. And subhanAllah, it's very important. As you read the Quran, of course we read it every Friday, it's important to ponder about even the order in which Allah mentions things. He mentions mercy first and then knowledge, which tells you a very important thing. Mercy is actually, first of all, if somebody has knowledge, it's first a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And second, the ilm is of course there. So, in fact, in the beginning of the khutbah I recited, I talked about, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. Again, Abd is mentioned before Rasul. So it's very important to understand this order in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired us to say things even. But the highest level that a servant, that a human being can achieve in knowledge is actually be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know in a tradition his name is Al-Khidr or Khadr. There are two different pronunciations. So two things have happened. Imagine, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said that where you will meet this man is where the two oceans meet. And you can see at this point there are two oceans of knowledge. Think of it this way. One ocean of knowledge is Musa alayhi salam, who has a certain kind of knowledge of Torah and so on. And there is another ocean of knowledge who has been given a different kind of knowledge, his teacher, who he meets, whose name is Al-Khidr, not in the Quran, but in the tradition. I won't go verse by verse because in the interest of time, but I'll skip to the main themes. There are three main lessons that we get from this story. قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. So Musa alayhi salam, after having traveled for so long, he finds this man, and he says to him, I'm very exhausted. But he doesn't say, why don't you teach me what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked me to learn from you? He says, look at the humility, look at the dedication of Musa alayhi salam. He says, can I follow you and learn from you, from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you? Look at the humility, look at the attitude, and also look at the wisdom of Musa alayhi salam. He understands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to Musa directly, right? وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ تَكْلِيمًا Musa taklima. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to him directly. But in this case, Musa alayhi salam learned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent him to this man to learn something, and he knew it would not come easy. It would not be an easy knowledge where he could just acquire from a book or from talking to him. He had to experience that with him. And that's why he said, can I follow you? And also it talks about sacrifice for the sake of knowledge, right? And Musa alayhi salam is no stranger to being exhausted. Like, he has done much more bigger things here, but he realized this knowledge that he's going to get is not going to be easy. So he's prepared, mentally prepared for it. And so he continues, can I go with you? Can I follow you and learn that knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you? And again, he's also giving credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to Khidr. He's saying the knowledge that you have learned from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. So Al-Khidr, his teacher, Musa's teacher, he says, how will you have patience? You will not have patience. You're not prepared for it. And subhanAllah, it's such a beautiful thing that is recorded in the Quran that we read, that we're going to read till the end of day. About who? About Musa alayhi salam, who has seen so many different challenges in his life. And he has, of course, gone through a lot of times which has tested his patience. But then he says, you cannot have patience with me. Which is, subhanAllah, very, very amazing. And he says, continues, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطَ بِهِ خُبْرًا. He says, how can you have patience with me when you do not know? For what you do not know. So he's also preparing Musa mentally that something is going to come this way which will make you test your patience. So be prepared. And he asks for one condition, just one condition, which is, as you go through this journey with me, O Musa, do not ask me any questions. Let me explain them to you. Do not ask me questions. Just go with me and see what happens. قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِن شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا. So Musa alayhi salam, he says, Inshallah, if Allah wills, I will be patient with you and I will obey your order. So they continue. So skipping to the first incident that happens, as they continue with they're going, there's three people, right? There's two people. The companion of Musa has gone back. Yusha has gone back. So it's really Musa and Khidr. Musa and his teacher. So the first incident happens. They go on a ship, and so they are travelers and they have a ship which is full of people. And they need to cross the ocean. So Al-Khidr comes and talks to the people of the ship and says, can you take us with you? So he's asking for a favor. And the people of the ship say yes. So they've done him a favor, done Musa a favor. So they board on the ship. Next thing what happens is, Musa sees Al-Khidr goes to the bottom of the ship that he has boarded, and tries breaking apart the ship. He tries removing planks from the bottom of the ship, and the ship starts sinking. Subhanallah. So you can imagine the patience of Musa is tested right in the very beginning. And that's the first incident that happens. And again, Musa alayhi salam, you can imagine, being who he is, he'll ask a question. What happened? Why are you doing this? فانطلق حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خرقها قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا. He says, you have done a deed that is, you have done a grave thing, you have done a very serious thing. Musa says to Al-Khidr, because they were people who had allowed us to board on the ship, and you actually are trying to break apart that ship. Why are you doing this? You have done something very evil. And Khidr says, remember my condition. What was my condition? You will not ask a question. قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. He says, I told you, did I not say that you would not be able to have patience with me? So Musa says, okay, back off. Sorry. He says, قَالَ لَا تُؤَخِذْنِي بِمَا نَسِيتُ وَلَا تُرْهِقْنِي مِنْ أَمْرِي عُسْرًا. He says, do not blame me for what I forgot, and do not cover me in this matter with difficulty. So the first incident is ended. And I want us to pause here for a minute. Just a minute, and then we'll come back to the main theme of this khutbah. There are so many, and inshallah we can all relate to this. My goal in this khutbah is to relate this to our daily lives, which we go. There are a lot of times when our patience are tested every day on a daily basis. You will see cases where you do good to a people, you do good to a person, and someone that person does bad to you. You do good to somebody, that person does bad to you. It happens, right? And so I just want to come back to that point later. But remember, this is the first incident. The second incident is I'm going to speed it up a bit. As they're going ahead, they meet, the second incident happens, where they see a bunch of kids playing. The second incident, they see a bunch of kids playing. Al-Khidr grabs one of the kids, young boys, maybe 8 years old, 7 years old, grabs one of the kids, breaks his neck, kills him. The kid has done nothing to them. And of course, Musa, being who he is, and in the past, Musa, didn't he come to defend one of the people of Bani Israel when he was when somebody was attacking him from one of the people of Firaun? And Musa has punched him and that person died. Remember that story? So how can Musa be quiet? The second story, right? And again, Musa asks him the same thing. You have done a very evil thing. Why did you kill this boy, this young innocent boy? Why did you kill him? He had done nothing for us. Again, pause and reflect. What happened here? In this case, there was somebody who had done nothing to them, nothing to Musa, nothing to Al-Khidr, yet Khidr killed him. Right? So there will be times when bad things will happen to you with no fault of yours. You have done nothing to them, neither good nor bad. Some bad will happen to you. Again, just connect those dots. We'll connect them all. Keep those dots in mind. I'll connect those 3 dots at the end of the khutbah. The second incident happened, and again, the same thing. قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. I told you, how can you have patience with me? Musa again says, قَالَ إِن سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَهَا فَلَا تُصَاحِبْنِي قَدْ بَلَغْتَ مِن لَدُنِّي عُذْرًا. And Musa this time says, if I should ask you about this, after this, anything else, then do not keep me as a companion. I have broken your promise. I have broken my condition twice. If I break it again, don't have to keep me as a companion. You have an excuse from me. So, we know the third story is coming, right? It's building up. And after the third story, they're going to be separated. Those 2 seas of ocean. Those 2 oceans of knowledge. Third story happens. They walk into a town. And the people of the town are not very friendly. The people of the town are not welcoming, right? And you can all relate to it. So, as they are walking through the town, Al-Khidr comes across a wall in the middle of the town that is shaky, that's about to fall, right? So, background for this, the people, Musa and Khidr are both thirsty and hungry, and the town even does not give them food or drink. Like, they are so unfriendly, so inhospitable. And Al-Khidr is walking through and sees a wall in the middle of the street, like a monument. He starts repairing it. Subhanallah. People are doing bad to them, and he starts doing something good. And once he's done repairing it, he moves on. And Musa is again questions him. Look, first of all, these people did bad to us. If we repaired the wall, we are doing them a favor. Why don't we ask for compensation? This was enough. This was the last of it. And he says he had broken his condition for the 3rd time. And remember, he had said, you don't need to keep me as a companion. قَالَ هَذَا فِرَاقُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِكَ سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلِ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. So he said, this is the parting between you and me. And the same term, Bahraini, is used. Subhanallah, they met when the 2 men met, Musa and Khidr, when the 2 oceans met, which is in some ways, the 2 oceans of knowledge are meeting. And now the oceans are separated. Those 2 people are going in their own separate ways. And so he says, before I go, I want to explain those 3 things to you. The first one, there was a navy. The first one, remember, Al-Khidr had broken the boat or the ship. He said, there was a navy that was coming, there was an army that was coming to acquire all these boats for their own purposes. And so Al-Khidr made those damages so that the army will walk away from this boat because it is damaged, walk away from this ship because it's damaged. They won't take it. So these people will have their livelihood maintained. So he had done them a favor. Again, this was in the unseen. This is the ghaib. He had that knowledge, Musa did. The second explanation was, the second thing was the boy getting killed, the young boy, 6-7 years old, right? And he said, look, this boy, if he had grown up to be an adult, he would have given a lot of pain to his parents. He would have done something very bad. So in the knowledge that Allah gave me, I made it easy for the boy, so he can go to Jannah, and made it easy for his parents. SubhanAllah. You can see, those were the 2 things that he explained. And again, for you and me, we don't have Khidr with us, right? But those things, you can imagine, we are in the same state as Musa on a daily basis. We see things that are happening, we may not understand why. Why is this happening to me? Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowing these things to happen across the world? Whether it's on a personal level, whether it's a global level. But remember, there's always a plan that we may not be privy to. We may not see the plan. Sometimes we may not know the reason. Sometimes we know the reason in years. Third explanation, third incident was, there was a righteous man who had buried his treasure under that wall, and if that wall fell apart, he had kids who were left behind. That man had died, so they were orphans, and Khidr fixed that wall so that the people don't see that. So if the wall had fallen, the money would have been exposed, and people would have just taken it and given nothing to the orphans. So he fixed the wall so that the orphans could have what their righteous father had asked them to, had kept that money for him. So this is coming to my main point of this khutbah. The main point is in life you will have situations just like the other three scenarios where you will do good to somebody, something bad is going to happen to you. They will do bad to you. Or you may not even do anything to them and they will do something bad to you. And there are cases where you will do good but you will not be compensated. But remember, it's always all in Allah's plan. The qadr of Allah, you have to believe as Muslims in the qadr of Allah. And be thankful to Allah. Believe in qadr, both the good and the bad. Believe whatever happens is always good, and Allah's plan is always superior to whatever we are planning. And we may not see the full picture. We don't have a khidr with us who can come to us and who can explain, right? We will sometimes have to be ignorant of what the real plan is, but it's always important to keep the plan of Allah in mind. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So in summary, we talked about the story of Musa and Khidr in the first part of the khutbah, and as I said, in life you will have these three scenarios and we see them on daily basis. And a patience or sabr and having tawakkul in Allah is not something that you can learn from a book. You cannot learn from a 500-page book. You cannot learn from 20 khutbahs that you go to on patience. You have to experience it. And that is the beauty of this story. Musa alayhi salam had to go along with Al-Khidr to learn these stories. And you can see how he was tested. And the second thing to understand is, if Musa had the status that he has gone through a lot in his life. We all know. Even then, he lost patience. Even though he knew the plan. He knew the plan of Allah to send him to this person. And he had been warned multiple times, but he still lost patience. So we can also fall. We can also lose patience. It's okay. Get up. We will all make mistakes. We'll fall down. But get up and get back. Go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And always believe in the qadr of Allah. So I'm going to leave you with three things. First is accept the qadr. The good and the bad. The Prophet ﷺ told us, accept in the qadr, the good and the bad. You may not know the whole picture. Always be optimistic. Always remember there's a plan of Allah. Even if sometimes, let's say I lose a job. Let's say I don't get to marry the person I wanted to marry. Let's say I have to move towns. At that point, we may be devastated. We may be frustrated. We may be depressed. But there is a plan of Allah. Believe in that plan. We may not see it. We may see it maybe 10 years later. Sometimes we may never see it. But always believe in that plan. The second is reflect on the Quran. As we are reciting verses of the Quran, reflect it, pause and reflect and see how it relates to your daily life. And make Quran a part of your daily life, even if it's a couple of verses. Even if it's a couple of verses, reflect on it and see how it applies to me. The third part I'm going to leave you with is always be in a state of sabr and shukr. Always be in a state of sabr and shukr. When something bad happens, say alhamdulillah. Things could have been worse. Have sabr. And the last time I came here, the last couple of times I've come, you have talked about two things that we should imbibe in our daily lives as much as possible. One is the night prayer, tahajjud. That is the best prayer when you can cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when nobody else is watching. And the other is doing zikr of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us eyes of iman and open our eyes to the truth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us in overcoming the suffering that you and I are going through, whatever it is. And help us ease our pain. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us students of the Quran and allow us to learn from the Quran and apply the Quran in our daily lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts and give us knowledge of His beautiful deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to live as Muslims, to die as Muslims, and to be resurrected as Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help the suffering Muslims all over the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite the ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite the ummah. May Allah give everyone who is sick a speedy shifa, and everyone who has passed away, may Allah grant them rahmah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Barik ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal huzni wal ajzi wal kasali wal bukhli wal jubni wa dalal dayni wa ghalabati ar-rijal. Rabbana alayka tawakkalna wa ilayka anabna wa ilayka al-masir. Allahumma izzal Islam wal Muslimin. Allahumma izzal Islam wal Muslimin. Wa zilla ash-shirka wal mushrikeen wa dammir a'da'aka ad-din. Allahumma ansur dinaka wa kitabaka wa sunnat nabiyyik. Allahumma ansur muslimina fi kulli makan. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة